The void between Terra and Mars is usually a corridor of commerce, a silent highway for the grain haulers and the pilgrim barks that feed the throne world. But today, the silence was shattered by the displacement of 1 billion tons of auramite and adamantium. The Imperator Somnium, the Emperor's personal flagship, a vessel so large it possessed its own gravitational pull, tore its way out of the warp. It did not arrive alone. It was the spearhead of a golden armada that blotted out the stars. Mars. The Red Planet. The forge of the Imperium. For 10,000 years, the Adeptus Mechanicus had ruled this world as a sovereign kingdom. They were allies of Terra, not subjects. They guarded their independence with the jealousy of a dragon guarding its hoard. They did not worship the Emperor as a man, they worshipped the Omnicia, the machine god, and viewed the Emperor merely as its avatar, a convenient theological loophole that allowed them to maintain their own strange religion. But as the shadow of the Emperor's fleet fell across the acid-scarred plains of the Tharsis Quadrangle, the loophole began to close. The reaction on the surface was not one of joy. It was a digital scream. The noosphere, the wireless, collective consciousness that links the mind of every tech priest on Mars, did not just crash. It seized in a paroxysm of terror. Imagine 1 billion cogitators crying out in binary code simultaneously. Data tethers snapped. Logic gates fused from the overload. Down in the canyons of the Iron Ring, legions of Skitarii warriors simply collapsed mid-stride, their neural uplinks fried by a presence so overwhelming it registered as a data virus of infinite magnitude. Deep within the steel mountains of Olympus Mons, Fabricator General Ududia Raskian sat upon his command throne. He was a creature of immense size, more building than biological entity, a collection of hydraulic pistons, sensory clusters, and ancient processors. He had ruled Mars for centuries with cold, unfeeling logic. But now, his logic was failing. System alert, his internal spirits chanted, a chorus of synthetic panic. The anathema approaches. Probability of negotiation, 0. Probability of survival, calculating. Raskian's mechadendrites twitched uncontrollably. He felt fear. Not the biological fear of adrenaline, which he had purged from his system eras ago, but the cold, mathematical certainty of obsolescence. The Treaty of Olympus, signed in the dawn of the Imperium, guaranteed Mars its autonomy. It stated that no armed force could enter Martian airspace without the consensus of the Magi. But the being descending from the sky did not care for paper treaties. Broadcast the obeisance protocols. Raskian screeched, his vocal emitters distorting with static feedback. Open the orbital defense grids. Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire. Offer them the Titan legions. Offer them the stockpiles of the Iron Ring. Tell him we are loyal. Tell him we obey. But there was no answer from the golden ships. They hung silently in the void, weapons powered, void shields shimmering like oil on water. They were not there to negotiate terms. They were there to remind the priesthood who truly owned the machines. In the teleportarium bay of the flagship, the air hummed with the smell of ozone and potential energy. The Emperor stood ready. He wore his auramite armor, now fully restored, the gold humming with psychic power. Beside him stood Roboute Guilliman, the avenging son, looking uncomfortable. To invade Mars was unthinkable. It was the other head of the Aquila. To threaten the Mechanicus was to risk the supply of every bolt shell and lasgun in the galaxy. Father, Guilliman said, his voice low, echoing in the vast chamber. If we do this, if we break the covenant, the Mechanicus could revolt. We rely on them for everything. Without their blessing, our ships do not fly. The Emperor did not turn. His eyes were fixed on the red sphere in the viewport, burning with a cold, terrifying intelligence. They will not revolt, Roboute. A machine does not revolt against its operator. It merely requires recalibration. The teleportarium flared with the light of 1,000 suns. Materialization is usually a violent process, a tearing of the veil between places. But when the master of mankind teleports, reality simply rearranges itself to accommodate him. They did not appear in the gilded cathedrals of the surface. They did not appear in the fabricator's palace. They appeared deep within the crust of the planet, in the airless, dust-choked tunnels of the Noctis Labyrinth. Here, the air tasted of iron dust and recycled promethium. It was a stale, dead air that had been breathed and rebreathed by machines for 20,000 years. The Emperor was flanked by Guilliman and a full shield host of the Adeptus Custodes. The golden giants moved with silent precision, their guardian spears active, casting long, dancing shadows on the rusted walls. Guilliman looked around with unease. This place was a graveyard of eras. The walls were not just rock, they were strata of history. As they descended, they walked backwards through time. First, they passed the current industrial sprawl, pipes and conduit stamped with the skull and cog of the 41st millennium. Crude, brutal, functional. Then, deeper, the architecture changed. They passed through the ruins of the Age of Strife, huge, desperate fortifications and rusted generators that spoke of a humanity fighting for survival against Iron Men and techno-barbarians. Deeper still. The tunnels became wider, smoother. They passed the gleaming, confident plasteel of the dark age of technology. Here, the machines were silent, covered in the dust of ages, their designs so advanced that even Guilliman, with his transhuman intellect, could not understand their function. Logic engines that could simulate universes. Nanoforges that could print cities. All silent. All forgotten. "Why are we here?" Guilliman asked, his voice sounding small in the crushing weight of the earth. "The Fabricator General is in Olympus Mons. We are miles beneath the surface." "We are here to cut the route," the Emperor replied. His voice was not spoken aloud, but projected directly into their minds. It felt like a memory of a storm. The Mechanicus is a tree that has grown rotten fruit. You cannot fix it by pruning the branches, Roboute. You must poison the soil. They went deeper. The tunnels became oppressive. The rock walls were marked with warning signs in High Gothic, binary, and languages that had been dead before Terra had oceans. Omnisia's wrath, read one faded sign. Absolute purge zone, read another. Shadows moved in the periphery. The guardians of the deep vaults, ancient automata, spider-legged cyber-mastiffs, and feral servitors that had gone feral in the dark, stalked them. Red Eyes watched from the gloom. But they did not attack. They could not. The aura of the Emperor was a physical barrier, a wall of psychic dominance. The machines sensed him. They sensed the magnetic field of his soul. To attack him would be to attack the concept of authority itself. They whimpered in binary and retreated into the cracks. Guilliman noticed something disturbing. The deeper they went, the less imperial the technology looked. The smooth curves of human design gave way to sharp, angular geometries. The metal became black and oily. It seemed to absorb the light of their torches rather than reflect it. "Father," Guilliman whispered, placing a hand on the hilt of his burning sword. "This architecture, this is not human. This is Xenos." "No," the Emperor agreed, his face set in a mask of grim determination. "It is not." They stood before a final, massive descent. A spiraling ramp that led down into a darkness so profound it seemed to have a physical weight. A green, sickly glow pulsed from the bottom, like the heartbeat of a dying star. "Before I unified Terra, before I created the Thunder Warriors, I came here," the Emperor revealed. "I fought a dragon. And I buried it, so that its dreams would seep into the soil and inspire you to build wonders. But you forgot the source. You worshipped the dream, and forgot the dreamer." They stepped onto the ramp. The descent into the belly of the beast had begun. At the bottom of the world, there was a gate. It was a slab of black stone, 50 meters high, pulsating with a rhythmic, nauseating green light. It was cold to the look, slick like oil, and it hummed with a sound that made the teeth ache. It was not stone. It was necrodermis. Living metal. The signature material of the Necrons, the ancient Starslayers who had ruled the galaxy 60 million years ago. Guarding this gate were not soldiers, but priests. The High Magi of the Dragon Cult, a secret sect within the Mechanicus who knew what truly lay beneath. They were creatures more machine than man, floating on antigrave suspensors, their bodies a mass of swaying mechadendrites and weapon limbs. They had guarded this secret for 10,000 years. When they saw the Emperor, they did not fire. They froze. Their logic cores locked in a loop of impossible data. They were looking at the Omnisia, the avatar of their god, standing before the prison of their god. The theological contradiction paralyzed them. "Halt!" croaked Magos Vetius, the keeper of the key. His voice was synthesized, trembling with a mixture of religious awe and terror. "This is the sanctum of the Silver Wyrm. Forbidden. Forbidden by the edicts of the Red Planet." The Emperor walked forward. The gold light of his halo clashed with the sickly green of the Necron Gate, creating a kaleidoscope of impossible colors. "Step aside, Vetius. It will destroy us," the Magos stammered, his optical lenses focusing and refocusing. "The scripture says, if the sleeper wakes, the Red Planet will burn. We are the Wardens. We keep the dream alive." "The scripture is a lie I wrote to keep you safe," the Emperor said, his voice hard as diamond, cutting through the humid air of the chamber. "I gave you the cult Mechanicus because you needed dogma to preserve technology during the long night. I allowed you to call me the Omnisia because it ensured your loyalty without me having to conquer you." He stopped inches from the Magos, looking down into the glowing red lenses of the cyborg. "But the long night is over. I have no use for superstition anymore. I have no use for a priesthood that hoards knowledge like a dragon hoards gold. You have sat upon this treasure for millennia, chanting prayers to a lock you do not understand." The Emperor raised his hand. He placed his palm flat against the black, alien metal of the gate. The reaction was violent. The Necron metal hissed, sparking and writhing as if in pain. The green runes flared blindingly bright, then shattered. The ancient seals, placed there by the Emperor himself 20,000 years ago, dissolved under his new, desperate will. The psychic pressure in the room shattered the glass of the Magos' sensors. "Open," he commanded. With a sound like a dying star, the massive gates ground open. A wind rushed out, a cold, cosmic wind that smelled of ozone, static electricity, and ancient malice. Guilliman drew the sword of the Emperor, the flames illuminating his anxious face. "What is in there, Father? What have you kept from us?" The Emperor stepped into the darkness. "A weapon, Roboute. The most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. And it is time we aimed it." The chamber beyond the gate was vast enough to house a Titan legion. The ceiling was lost in shadows, and the floor was a grid of glowing green energy conduits that pulsed like veins. In the center of the chamber, suspended in a stasis field of incredible complexity, hung the shard. To call it a dragon was a metaphor that the human mind used to comprehend the incomprehensible. It was a cloud of quicksilver, a storm of liquid metal that constantly shifted, boiled, and reformed. It was Magladrath, the Void Dragon. A shard of a Cetan star god. A being that had once eaten suns. A being that had enslaved entire races. A being that viewed the laws of physics as mere suggestions. As the Emperor entered, he mentally snapped the stasis locks. The reaction was instantaneous. The liquid metal exploded outward. Green lightning arced across the chamber, vaporizing the rock walls. The air temperature dropped to absolute zero in a heartbeat, freezing the moisture in the air into diamond dust. The entity formed itself. Huge wings of starlight unfurled. Claws that could shear through reality materialized. A face, devoid of features yet filled with infinite hatred, looked down at the intruders. Anathema. The voice did not come from a mouth. It came from the walls, the floor, the air itself. It was a sound of grinding gears and dying stars. It bypassed the ears and vibrated directly in the skeleton. You return. My jailer. My thief. The void dragon lunged. It moved faster than thought. A tendril of green lightning lashed out, striking the Emperor square in the chest. Guilliman shouted, rushing forward, but he was thrown back by a shockwave of gravity that crushed the floor plates. The custodes were pinned to the ground, their auramite armor groaning under the pressure of 1,000 atmospheres. Only the Emperor stood. The green lightning struck his armor and dissipated. The Emperor stood firm, his psychic shield flaring gold. He was no longer the warrior who had barely imprisoned the beast eons ago. He was the God Emperor, fueled by the worship of 1 trillion souls for 10 millennia. He was a sun in human form. Your prison has made you weak, beast, the Emperor said calmly, brushing the residual energy from his chest. And it has made me strong. I am the machine god. The dragon roared, its form shifting into 1,000 blades, a whirlwind of death. I am the spark in the circuit. I am the ghost in the shell. These vermin worship me, not you. I have whispered dreams of titans into their minds. They worship the invention, the Emperor countered, his voice rising. Not the battery. You are nothing but fuel. The cavern shook as the two entities clashed, one a master of the material universe, the other a master of the warp. Realities collided. The battle that followed was silent to the ears, but deafening to the soul. It was not a physical brawl, it was a metaphysical violation of nature. The void dragon tried to unmake the Emperor. It rewrote the laws of physics in the chamber. It turned the floor to magma. It turned the air to vacuum. It tried to age the Emperor's armor into dust in a nanosecond. It tried to turn the blood in his veins into lead. But the Emperor is the anathema. He imposes his reality upon the universe. Where the dragon tried to destroy, the Emperor commanded existence. He walked through the magma as if it were water. He breathed the vacuum. His armor regenerated faster than it could be decayed. He raised his sword. The blade burst with psychic fire, not the fire of heat, but the fire of the Astronomicon, the light that burns away demons. Kneel, the Emperor commanded. He swung the sword. A wave of golden force, solid will, slammed into the Citan. The liquid metal screamed, a digital shriek of corrupted code that shattered every cogitator within 10 miles. The dragon's form shattered, scattering into 1,000,000 droplets of silver, only to frantically reform, smaller this time. Dimmer. You cannot destroy matter. The dragon wailed, its voice losing its arrogance. I am eternal. I am a fundamental constant of the universe. I do not wish to destroy you, the Emperor said, taking another step. The golden light of his presence was now expanding, filling the cavern, suffocating the green glow of the alien. To destroy you would be a waste of resources. Psychic chains, forged from the collective willpower of humanity, erupted from the ground. They glowed with holy fire. They wrapped around the dragon's wings, its claws, its throat. The star god thrashed, its strength enough to crack planets, but against the Emperor's will, it was helpless. The Emperor stood over the creature. He looked down with eyes that held no pity, only cold, utilitarian purpose. He was not a hero slaying a monster. He was a mechanic fixing a generator. You will submit. You will open your mind to the Mechanicus. You will give them the designs they have forgotten. You will show them how to repair the Golden Throne. You will show them how to build the weapons we need. I will not serve the cattle. I will not serve the flesh things. You will, the Emperor said, tightening the psychic noose. Or I will let the warp in here. I will let the diamonds feed on your essence. The threat was absolute. The Citan, beings of the pure material universe, feared the warp above all else. It was poison to them. To be consumed by chaos was a fate worse than slavery. The dragon stopped struggling. The green light faded to a dull, submissive pulse. It bowed its massive, metallic head. Protocol accepted. The ascent from the labyrinth was silent. The ancient tech priests they passed did not speak, they prostrated themselves on the floor, their senses averted. They had felt the seismic shift in the noosphere. They had felt a new, terrifying data stream enter their minds, blueprints, schematics, algorithms of impossible complexity, flowing directly from the prison of the dragon. The knowledge of the Golden Age was flooding back into Mars. The censorship protocols were burning away. When the Emperor emerged onto the landing platform at Olympus Mons, the sun was setting over the red wastes. The wind whipped at his cloak. Fabricator General Raskian was waiting. Behind him stood the Legio Cybernetica, the Titan Princeps, and the Skitarii Marshals. Millions of them, arranged in perfect geometric grids. Raskian stepped forward. His massive, building-sized frame lowered in a bow that strained his hydraulics, causing sparks to fly. Omnicia, Raskian said, his voice humbled. All the data. It flows. The STC fragments, they are completing themselves. The logic vaults are unlocking. We see everything. The dragon is awake, the Emperor said, his voice carrying over the wind. It is bound to my will, and through me, to yours. Use it. He walked past the bowing Fabricator General towards his transport. Repair the fleets, Raskian. Wake the titans that have slept since the heresy. Unlock the forbidden armories. I want the Sol system to be a fortress of iron within a month. No more rituals. No more prayers to toasters. Just efficiency. It shall be done, Omnicia. Glory to the machine god. The Emperor stopped. He looked back at the gathered priesthood with a look of infinite weariness. There is no machine god, he said coldly. There is only the machine. And the men who master it. Never forget that again. As the Thunderhawk gunship lifted off, carrying the master of mankind back to the stars, the forges of Mars began to roar. It was a sound that had not been heard in 10,000 years. The chant of monks was replaced by the scream of industry. The smell of incense was replaced by the smell of ozone. The lie was dead. The war machine was alive. Guilliman sat opposite his father in the transport. He watched the Emperor close his eyes, exhaustion briefly flickering across his features. The battle with the Cetan had cost him. What now, father? Guilliman asked. Terra is secure. Mars is compliant. The Indomitus Crusade awaits your command. The Emperor opened his eyes. They burned with the light of 1,000 galaxies. Now, the Emperor said, we summon the lion. We summon the wolf. We are going to the warp, Roboute. We are going to burn the Garden of Nurgle to the ground.